the best AR-15 cartridge has been this like crazy discussion for many, many years. So I've compiled some data. I've tried to get it all from one source. So that means I've only got one source of ballistics from one company. And I did that because they test their cartridges all the same. And so we're going to go over why I think, my particular choices, two of them, are the best AR-15 cartridges, and where we're going to go from there. So first thing we're going to do, the cartridges. 223, been around forever. It's a great cartridge. It can do a whole lot of stuff. It can do more than most people think it can do. Specifically, we're going to be looking at the 73 grain ELD match, and that has a ballistic coefficient, a G7 coefficient of 0.2. And then from there, we're going to step it up into newer cartridges. The newest first, then the next, and then one of the older cartridges that fit into this platform. So the next one up would be the 22 ARC, and I'm comparing, and I'm going kind of heavy for factory offerings because a lot of people don't reload. The vast majority of people that shoot don't reload. So that's why I did 73 grain ELDEM. It's a match cartridge. It would come in a box that looks similar to this from Hornady, and that's what they offer. For the 22 ARC, they offer an 88 grain ELDEM, and that is at a 274, a .274 G7 ballistics. The next one I'm going to go with is the 6 ARC, which is what I have here. It is going to be with a 108 ELD match at a .27 G7 ballistic coefficient. And then the venerable, the old school 6.5 Grendel 123 grain ELD match at a .255 G7 ballistics. And so we're going to compare all the data that I can get from these. I will say right up front, everything out to 500 except for wind was gathered from Hornady's website. They test everything in 24-inch barrels. That doesn't mean a lot because I've gotten similar velocities to these in an 18-inch AR. And so they're kind of loaded down, I think, from factory. And I do load up a little bit, but they also go off a 200-yard zero. So everything 500 yards and closer, their numbers, I'm sticking to them. I'm not changing them based on a 200-yard zero. Everything that I offer you at 1,000 yards, all the information that I've accumulated was done at a 100-yard zero through my Strelok Pro app. And so that's where we are with that. I just want to be upfront and transparent about that. And so I'll do my best to add the chart up into the screen. I'm getting better at doing things like that. We'll figure that out. So muzzle velocity on the 223 is 2,790 feet per second. The ARC is 2820, 22 ARC. The 6 ARC is 2750, and the 6.5 Grendel is 2580. And as you can see, I've color coded these to say, hey, which good, better, best. Obviously, the 22 ARC shooting the smallest projectile of the three on the right side of the chart. And the case capacity is a lot bigger than the 223. So it gets the green. The orange kind of a tie between the 6 ARC and the 223. 2750 to 2790, that's not a real big difference there. And then the last place would be the Grendel at 2580. A lot of people can get that 2580, like I said earlier, out of a much shorter barrel, but that's just kind of the stats as they lie. Now, energy. I'm going to go over this briefly and I'm going to do energy at muzzle, 500 and 1,000, because people love the energy debate. Some of y'all, not this guy, I don't think energy matters at all. If energy mattered at all, a 9mm would never work. So, like a 308 gives more than 9mm energy to 1,000 yards. You telling me that's not going to be lethal? Like, I doubt that very seriously. So, energy for the 223, 1262, 22 ARC at 1554 ARC, the 6 ARC at 1813, and the 6.5 Grendel tied for that at 1818. That's such a minute difference, it doesn't even matter, and it's going to open up drastically after that, so it's fine. The 22 ARC, trailing behind a little bit, and then the 223 is already falling behind a lot. Then we're going to go to 500-yard velocities. So this is beyond what most people shoot. Shooting longer range is becoming more and more popular. People are doing it because it's the information is out there, and it wasn't previously. And it's the proliferation of the information on the internet, obviously, is the reason. but being able to shoot a longer range easier, and getting the information that you need to be able to do it, man, it's the simplest thing in the world. ChatGPT can help you out. So we're going to go to 500-yard velocities. The 223 at 1766, the 22 arc at 2040, and as you can see, green already, it's crushed these other ones. The 6 arc at 1971, and for you dyslexic folks, the 6.5 Grendel at 1791. That threw me off for a second because I is one of those people. The 500-yard energy, again, I don't care about this. However, the facts are the facts. 505 for the 223. The 22 arc is 813. Both of those are in last place. The 6 arc at 931 and the 6.5 Grendel at 876. And so there are a lot of people that think you need 1,000 foot-pounds to hunt. Let's say that's real. Well, that's the closest you're going to get. So, based on this information and this data presented as is, and using the same rifle that Hornady used, you could feasibly hunt with this 6 arc on game if your 1,000-pound requirement is present at like 450. So pretty good distance. Most people never shoot an animal that far in their life. So from there, we're going to go to the 500 yard drop numbers. These are inches, and so rounding out the orange category here is the 223 at 49 inches. Keep in mind this is a 200-yard zero. 22 arc at 42.1, and I'm going to say that's going to be a tie with the 6 arc at 44.8 because that's so close it doesn't even matter. And the 6.5 Grendel at 52.8. I don't stress too much about drop. It's just a factor of gravity and things like that. But that's the things that we can account for. Most of this, we're going to get into wind next. This is where you're going to miss. You're not going to miss because of drop generally, as long as you've done your homework. You're going to miss because of wind. And so let's go look at 10 mile an hour wind. We're talking about a full value, straight from the side, 90 degrees from your position, the way your rifle's faced. So for those of you who can't picture that, I'm pointing at you. You're my deer, and the wind is coming exactly across. So 223's got me 1.4 mils or 4.7 MOA. The 22 arc has 0.9 mils or 3.2 MOA, and the 6 arc is right there with it at 1 mil with 3.3 MOA. Basically identical. And then the 6.5 Grendel 1.1 mil or 3.9 MOA. And so some of you are like, why is there such a big difference between 1.1 and 3.9 MOA when the 6 arc is 1 mil and 3.3 MOA? Look up the difference between a mil and an MOA. MOA is basically like at 600 yards or 500 yards here, it would be 5 inches roughly. At 500 yards, a mil would be 15 inches. So it's a big number difference. So now we're going to jump up to 1,000 yards. Everybody likes to talk about shooting 1,000 yards. Everybody likes to act like they can do it, number one, which a lot of people can't. It's a little harder than people think. A lot of factors favor into like how the bullet's dropping, how it's moving. Is there wind that you can't account for? As the bullet arcs up into the sky a little bit based on your trajectory and your barrel position, is the wind grabbing it and pushing it around? And so we're going to go velocities. We're going to stay in the same order generally. So the 223 shooting that 73 grain ELD map, just traveling at 1,038 feet per second. The 22 arc is still at 1,342, followed super close by the 6 arc shooting that 108 grain bullet at 1,325 feet per second. So that's still cooking. Down at sea level, that's still supersonic. So that's pretty awesome. The 6.5 at Grendel is barely chugging along at 1147. Still respectable. You can work with that. But as you can see, the red goes to the 223, the green tie for 22 arc and 6 arc, and the Grendel gets the second place. So energy 175 for the 223 at 1,000 yards, 352 for the arc. That's kind of that weird thing too. It's like energy. Yeah, well, energy is just a factor because of the speed and the velocity and the mass of the object flying down there, which would indicate that the 6 arc, obviously you see there already, is in green because it's a heavier bullet traveling at a similar feet per second. And then rounding out the middle place again, 359 foot-pounds for the 6.5 Grendel. Now drop in inches, we're going to start to separate a little bit more, but you'll see the green's going to start filling up the middle column here. The 223 is at 439. 22 arc at 334, and only 4 inches difference is the 6 arc at 338. And keep in mind, this is 1,000 foot-pounds done on Straylock Pro. Or, I'm sorry, 1,000 yards, and this data is derived from Straylock Pro. And then the Grendel rounding out the middle of the pack at 412 inches a drop. And that is the inches. Now convert that to mils, 12.2 mils for the 223, 9.3 for the 22 arc, 9.4 for the 6 arc. That's why I gave them a tie. Like, that is so close, it's ridiculous. And then 10.4 for the Grendel. So we can see, I think the color categories are very fitting there. And then the wind correction, the number one thing we miss because of would be the wind. So 1,000 yards, it really plays a lot of hands in that, because every foot that it travels, the wind can change. It can go up, it can go down, left, right. It can change value from straight on to angled to half value or less or more. And it's going to change everything you do about that. And so 1,000 yards, 10 mile an hour crosswind, directly across. The 223, I've got 3.7 mils or 12.7 MOA. I've got 2.3 mils and 7.9 MOA for the 22 arc. Likewise, almost identical, 2.3 mils and 8.1 MOA for the 22 arc and 6 arc respectively. And then 6.5 Grendel, I've got 2.8 mils and 9.8 MOA. And so tons of data. Okay, so what? Who cares? Well, some people care. And I'm going to tell you my 2 choices, and I think it's going to be clear because I'm going to leave that chart up there. You see a lot of green. You don't see any green in the 223. That doesn't mean it's a bad cartridge. It's just when compared to these other 3 cartridges. I would shoot, I live in Texas. This is completely legal to shoot a deer with a 223. Bullet choice matters more than all this red and orange and green in data that I threw at you. I also live in an area where people, pay thousands of dollars a year to hunt little tiny white-tailed deer, and for their 30 pounds of meat or whatever they get off of them. And they also shoot 300 Win Mags, which blows my mind. A 73 grain ELD match will absolutely devastate a white-tailed deer. Absolutely devastate. It will devastate, and this is going to be really controversial, in places where legal, of course, but it would devastate at the right range and velocity an elk, because it happens. Idaho, you can hunt with 223. People shoot tons of animals up there with 223. They do just fine. They're not shooting super far, but they're staying within the parameters of the expansion thresholds of the bullets that they choose. The ELD match has been known to disrupt very violently, all the way down to about 1,600 feet per second, which gets you pretty far out there. And so, as you can see on the chart, it's 1,766. If you subscribed to the 1,600 feet per second idea, then you would be good at 500 yards. I don't think I would do that, but that doesn't make the 223 bad. It's a good target cartridge. It's a good small game hunting cartridge. And where legal, if it's feasible and you're comfortable with it and you're a good shot and you can shoot the animal where it needs to be shot for an ethical, clean kill, I don't see a problem with that. I'm going to switch over to the 6.5 Grendel at this point because I want to save the other 2 for last. The 6.5 Grendel stood alone for a long time. Great cartridge. It was a nice break from the 223. I had a 6.5 Grendel for a little while, 18 inch. I never got 2580 out of it with that bullet. I got about 2500. And then when I moved down to sea level, maybe it was the temperature down here. I don't know, but I could never get above 2450. Still, within hundreds of yards, 300, 400, 500 yards, it was really good, and it would take whitetail just fine. Heck, velocity at 500 was 1791. So, you're below 1800, and I was just above 1600. I wouldn't have had a problem with that. I don't even have anywhere to shoot 500 yards here, much less shoot a deer at 500 yards. So, 100 yards, 150 yards, 200 yards, it's not a problem. That's a great round. Really easy to load for. But as you can see, it's only got one area that it, quote unquote, won, and that was the energy at the muzzle. And that's it. Because it's just kind of chugging along. It's a decently BC'd bullet. Pretty aerodynamics, not too bad. But things change. I'm not going to sit here and say that, Hornady came up with these great cartridges. No, they didn't. They presented these cartridges, standardized them, and took them to SAMI to get spec'd so then they could market things. Hornady is a marketing giant. So if you don't know that, go do some research on this. They didn't invent pretty much any of these rounds that we ever go over, but they marketed them, they commercialized them, and they do really well at that. So given that, the 6.5 Grendel, the 6 ARC, and the 22 ARC basically use the same case. And if you go on the Hornady podcast, they're going to say it's not. It absolutely is. These all came from Wildcats. The 6.5 Grendel started as a Wildcat. Then people said, you know what? Just like with every other cartridge, they say, I'm going to throw a 6mm bullet in this bad boy and see what happens. I'm going to throw a 22 caliber bullet in this bad boy and see what happens. And so there was the 22 Grendel, and there were some variations of that. There was the 6 LBC, I think it was called, the 6 Grendel, all these different Wildcats that people did. And again, all they did was commercialize them, submit them to SAMI, and get them approved. Given that, I'm going to go to the middle of the chart and say, these are the 2 best hunting cartridges. And then I'm going to narrow it down to 1 in just a second. Your laws in your state will dictate what you can hunt with. Your feeling about how you hunt and things like that is probably deeply derived from dad, grandpa, things you think you've seen that you understood. Maybe we didn't, because I was in the exact same boat. I have now shot deer with 223. I've shot it with 6.5 Creedmoor. I've shot with 308 and a 6.5 Grendel. I've shot big game with 6.5 Creedmoor and big game with 308. And so just as a matter of reference, I've also shot an arrow at elk numerous times and deer and had 0 problems. Actually, they travel a little less distance when shot with an arrow than compared to when I shot them with bullets. So that's why the energy thing doesn't matter to me. Back to 22 ARC, 6 ARC. If I was hunting and my main goal, let's even break it down further. If I'm only target shooting, I'm shooting the 22 ARC all stinking day, all day. You're getting the velocity you need, the drops that are predictable, the wind that's kicking butt. It's right up there with the 6 ARC 2. I think that is a wonderful cartridge. I don't have one yet, and I do emphasize yet. I almost impulse bought a barrel this morning because they're on sale, and I may still do it because I got about 15 hours left on the sale. Look at the numbers there. So if you're looking at the colors and you'll see that the 22 ARC has 1 red, well, that's an energy number. I don't care about energy. I'm not going to shoot a deer at 500 yards with that caliber anyways. Well, I say that, but I'm at 2,040 feet per second, so I probably would. Would I shoot an elk at that distance? Not with the 22 ARC. And where I hunt, you can't use it anyways. But like I said a second ago, if I'm just target shooting, if I'm a range guy, if I'm just a long distance guy, I'm going 22 ARC all day long. I love the numbers that I see here. I love the drop numbers and I love the wind numbers. If you hunt Colorado, I think Wyoming won't let you, things like that, you can't hunt with a 22 caliber. You have to hunt with a 6mm minimum. And so, the old adage, get both. But if that's not the option, or it's your first one, and you hunt somewhere where you have a caliber restriction and that caliber happens to be 243 and you want to do it with an AR, I mean, you can still buy these in bolt action too, but if you want to do it with your AR and you just want to buy an upper so you have multiple platforms, basically on the same one or very similar platforms, I think the 6 ARC would be the best for you. But as I'm going to repeat it one last time, if you're just target shooting, if you're just a range guy, you're just going out trying to shoot long range, I think 22 ARC is your deal. On to 6 ARC. And to my choice is the best AR cartridge on the market right now. And I get it. There's these Nosler bullets, there are these Nosler cartridges that came out. There's no support for them. They never really, got good loads for those. They're kind of slow. They're finicky, things like that. These cartridges, they're just better a little bit, even if it's a lot, even if it's a little bit rather, as opposed to a lot. It's still, I think it's a better cartridge, but I digress. 6 ARC is kind of there. It's not the fastest. It's not the flattest shooting, almost. It's not the sexiest, but it's pretty dang sweet. I mean, look at these bad boys. I'm just gonna bust these suckers out. So that's factory ammo. This is the only box of factory ammo I've ever bought because I was messing up my reloads. More on a different video, but this thing out of my thrown together AR, and I think I have targets somewhere. Excuse me. Out of my thrown together AR and all the mistakes I've been making with it and getting on target, these aren't even the right targets, but that's okay. I've had really good luck with this. I've had decent success with a cheap build. Like my barrel's 150 bucks, you know, and I put the first 3 rounds of this into less than half an inch. Then I shot the rest of my reloads. Then I came back to these, shot 5 more of these, and I think I put the next 5 in like 1.5 inches, which that is fine with me. I'm okay with that. That gets me out a lot further than I will think I will ethically take an animal. But let's look at the kind of the meat and potatoes of this thing. Sorry if you came to this video thinking we're going to be here for 35 seconds and grab your attention span and, you know, let you move on to some other, you know, weird dance in the shorts or something, but that's not happening today. Let's say I want to use the numbers that I have here on the screen. And I say I want to shoot an elk. I'm going to say elk at 500 yards. Well, I'm at 1,971 feet per second. Even the ELDX will reliably expand down to 1,800. So I'm good there. Energy, if you're that kind of person, 931, borderline. If you like that 1,000 foot-pounds, I don't care about that. That's a phenomenal number. I don't mind that. Drop, I'm not terribly concerned with that because I will have already, you know, recognized the drop. I would have already compensated for it and all that good stuff. And I'm only, let's see here, 10 mile an hour wind at 500 is 1 mil. Easy to compensate for. That's not hard at all. And so that opens up a lot of doors. I can hunt almost every state and almost any animal in the country with this cartridge, the 6mm arc. I like that. If I could hunt elk and big deer and stuff like that in Colorado with the 22 arc, I would absolutely do it. And so that's why I choose a 6 arc. But really in my mind, the 6 arc and 22 arc are exchangeable because we're looking for long for caliber, heavy for caliber bullets that can expand reliably. The longer the bullet for caliber, the better, or the more material will have to shear off and cause damage when you do hit the animal. So like a 6 arc with like an 80 grain isn't going to be as devastating on a big game animal as the 108 grain. So if you don't understand that, go check out the Shoot to Hunt podcast, listen to some videos by Form. Look him up on Rock Slide if you feel so inclined. He's not just some guy, you know, he does this for a living. So, but that's why I choose the 6 arc. I keep going off in side quests, but that's why I choose the 6 arc. I am going to build a 22 arc because there's going to be times where I want to hunt with that and places where I go to hunt with that. But for right now, that's why I have that 6 arc, which is, well, I thought it was right here, but that's okay. It's not right here. And I will continue to use that 6 arc for the foreseeable future. And when I can, I will be using the 22 arc with a, you know, 75 to 80 something grain bullet traveling at awesome speeds out of probably an 18 inch. And just for my last point of reference, I am shooting my 6 arc out of a 16 inch barrel. And I was shooting the 105 grain Booktail hollow points, and I'm getting almost 2,500 feet per second. I'm loading them a little long right now, so I'm going to shorten them up a little bit, see what I can do with that, see if I can tighten up the accuracy and increase the speed. But about 2475-ish. And then I'm also shooting these 90 grain tipped Game Kings at almost 2,600 feet per second. Also still loaded a little long, so I need to tighten those up a little bit. And then just like the match ammo here that I have, these are 108 grain 108 grain ELD match bullets. I have a bunch of those coming in the mail. Those will be loaded up soon, and I'm hoping to get just over 2,500 feet per second out of that because, you know, 16 inch barrel, you kind of lose something. But, you know, you're not losing a lot to things like this Creedmoor. You know, when you start to saying, I'm going to stay within ethical distances, you're not really losing much. You're still providing enough killing ability, enough penetration, and the speed that you need to open up that bullet reliably is still happening. So that's why, again, last time, that's why I choose the 6 arc. So let me know down in the comments what you have chosen for your AR and why. And don't bash each other. Like some people love the 223. I still love the 223. I have 3 of them. I have a 6 arc. I'm going to build a 22 arc. I have a 6.5 Creedmoor. I'm about to rebarrel that to a 6mm Creedmoor so I can share bullets. All that good stuff. But let me know what you use. Let me know what you would be comfortable using and how big of an animal. If you say 22 arc, how big of an animal would you shoot with that at a reasonable distance? We're going to always assume that you're staying within the thresholds of the bullet. You're using a good bullet. How far are you going to shoot an elk? How far are you going to shoot a caribou? How far are you going to shoot a moose? I mean, there's a YouTube video out there. A dude shot a moose with the 22 arc. Killed it. So let me know in the comments. Until then, stay tactical.